Shalom, everybody. Shalom, and welcome to the Yishai Fleischer Show, broadcasting live from Judea to the world. You're a part of it, wherever you are. Shalom. I'm in a good mood to be with you here tonight. I think it's important for us to talk. A lot of hate out there for Israel, and so I want my friends to feel a little bit, that we are helping each other to understand the truth, and that we're not alone. You're not alone. And get you guys a little bit more clarity and information, which is so important. So, shalom, everybody, and welcome. So, today's show is going out live here from Judea, and your questions are going to be dealt with. Put your questions up on the comments, and my producer Yo is going to get them up and show them. So, let's deal with some issues today. I know there's a lot out there, and the world has changed. It hit me that in the last few weeks, it suddenly hit me that the world is like full of anti-Semitism. Now, you would say, Yishai, duh, you're like in the business for a long time. And the truth is, I am in the business for a long time, but I've never seen it like this. And I remember something that I said years ago, that I'm not going to talk about anti-Semitism. I'm going to help people fall in love with Israel, connect with Israel. And I'm not going to talk too much about, I'm not going to be one of these guys who's always spewing the problems of anti-Semitism until such a time that anti-Semitism is going to become so big and rampant that it's time to talk about it. And sadly, that is what has become. I was listening to Israeli news today, and they were like, this is the most just war that Israel's ever fought. I don't know if that's true, but it is certainly a very just war. And yet we don't seem to have legitimacy from the world. Now, one could say, who cares what the world says? And that's actually an important stance. You have to have an element of being able to say, I don't care. I'm here to survive. I'm Jewish. You guys have a track record of anti-Semitism and Israel hate. You didn't save us in the Holocaust, and I don't care what you say. That's true on the one hand. On the other hand, why should we allow the world to be permeated and infiltrated by lies against us? Why should we have such a blackening of our name? In Israel and in other places, when somebody lies about you, defames you, that's something you could take them to court for. Like, we are being defamed. That reminds me that I maybe I'll do a video where I'm taking people to court for defamation. Another video that I just remembered now that I wanted to make is how Islam is actually using our trademarks and our patents in Judaism and are stealing them away. Like Jerusalem. Jerusalem is Jewish. But the good news is, I want to tell you the good news is, we are actually not starving the Palestinian people or the Gazans. We're not starving them. And there are places, especially in northern Gaza, where there's a humanitarian challenge, maybe even a crisis. But middle of Gaza, southern Gaza are eating. There's tons of videos of them with restaurants and at the shuk and all that kind of stuff. And of course, we're trying to get food, and we should get food to northern Gaza because we should be the sovereigns there, and we should take care of any people that are in our land. Moreover, we should help. The most important thing that is never discussed out there, the real anti-Semitism and real anti-Arabism, is that there's no refugees. We're fighting a war with a combatant called Hamas, and there are many non-combatants, and they should be out of the picture. The way you get them out of the picture is by helping refugees leave and find safety and a normal life somewhere else. 4.5 million refugees in the Ukraine-Russia war, up to 10 million refugees in the Syrian civil war, and yet practically no refugees out of Gaza. That is absurd, and that should be the talk of the town. Instead, the talk of the town is actually recognizing, after October the 7th, instead of saying that Israel should be the sovereign, instead, now, almost 2 years later, we are at a state that the world is moving towards recognition of a Palestinian state. That goes to show you that Israeli diplomacy has been in a little bit of trouble. We've heard it from France. We've also heard it now from the UK. And we have with us somebody who is an expert in UK-ness. His name is Jonathan Neumann, and his accent will give it away that he's from England, Britain, or the UK. Sometimes it gets confusing. And he is a commentator on politics and religion, and is also the best-selling author of To Heal the World: How the Jewish Left Corrupts Judaism and Endangers Israel. Jonathan Neumann, shalom, and welcome to the program. Great to have you.
Yishai, it is great to be back. It was even greater seeing you in the flesh in the holy city of Hebron yesterday.
That's right. That's right. It was fun to tour you, and we were actually touring with the great Avi Abelow's group, A Pulse of Israel, and that was really very special for me. And you were on that tour, and last I knew you, I met you in Limud many years ago. You were still living in the UK, and I think you were studying law. What happened since?
Well, I've made Aliyah as all Jews ultimately must to the holy city of Yerushalayim, which is where I'm speaking to you now, and still writing, still commentating, and yeah, there's no shortage of things to talk about, as you just said.
Jonathan, anti-Semitism. It's of a different. It's a different it's a different quantity and therefore a different quality. Something's different in my sense from over here in Israel. I haven't been out yet. I'm actually flying out in a little bit, but is that your sense also, that the world is a different place? Is it an exaggeration, or is it really something's different about the world and its relationship to Israel today?
I think you're right. I think something has changed. I think the pervasiveness and longevity of the anti-Semitism that we're seeing is unprecedented. You know, we always know that there are spikes in anti-Semitism around the world when there is an issue in Israel, when it's being attacked by the Arabs and having to defend itself, and so on. So we know that. But in the past, these conflagrations have never lasted that long. You know, the pressure has always been very intense on Israel to stop, and Israel has usually done so. I think 2014, was kind of the longest of the Gaza wars. What was that, like 50 days or something? And now we're talking a year and a half, more than a year and a half on. So it's really emboldened a lot of the extremists that we're seeing in places like London, but also, you know, in New York and LA, throughout the West. And the authorities simply haven't tackled the issue. That's emboldened them more, and they're getting more and more impassioned as they see Israel and the Jews winning. They can't take that. It was interesting what you were saying earlier. It made me think that actually, you remember when all the world leaders visited Israel in the few days after the 7th of October, and it was kind of, the world was sort of on the Jews' side then because we were losing. And now actually, we're seeing all these recognitions, and maybe we can take some solace in them because it's a sign that the Jews are winning, and they're looking at that and they're not happy about that. And that's kind of the zeitgeist, right? So that's why we're getting a lot of this pushback, because suddenly the Jews are a powerful player in the Middle East, and people are uncomfortable with that.
So that's the way you see it. You see it as because of like Jewish winning, Jewish strength. Do you think that that's what's bothering kids on campus? You know, they see Jewish strength and they're jealous of it, or they're hateful of it, or do you think that they're just being brainwashed as though there's this big, evil Jewish state that is manhandling and abusing this small minority of ethnic indigenous peoples called Palestinians? Israel is a Johnny-come-lately kind of white colonialist occupier. And the Arabs are indigenous. They're brown. They're from here, and they have the indigenous and ancient status as opposed to the Jewish people. And that's the thing. I mean, I that's what I would think is more the motivation on campus.
I think that mentality is absolutely there. I think that's absolutely right. I'm just saying that I think that the passion that we're seeing, the growing passion, and the fact that these new steps are being taken is because the Jews are succeeding. So for all the reasons that you say, they already don't like Israel. They already don't like the Jewish state. They already don't like what's going on. But that's driving them even wilder. That the Jews are winning, that the Jews are succeeding, and that goes against what's supposed to happen.
Okay, let's talk about England. Okay, England has a special place in my heart because, on the one hand, because I'm a student of history, I think that people don't understand the role that the British leadership at the turn of at the victory of World War One and the destruction of the Ottoman Empire, the outsized influence that the UK, that England had in really creating a Jewish state. I always try to teach this to people, and I feel like I'm maybe not doing it enough. But the state of Israel isn't really born in 1948. The modern state of Israel is really born in 1917 with the Balfour Declaration, with the victory over the Ottomans, with the creation of a mandate to build a Jewish state that was sanctioned by the League of Nations, that was run by England. And it really started off very beautifully. It made political sense. They thought that the Jews could help secure the Suez Canal. It made religious sense because they wanted to fix what Christendom had done to the Jews. And they wanted to be part of restoration. Restorationism was a great movement in the UK. And then in the 30s, already late 20s, they started turning. They started turning real bad. They started turning anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, pro-Arab oil. Today, the UK is that goodness that I talked about in 1917 is barely found. It's barely found. And we have Keir Starmer. Is that right? Did I say it right? And also, let's talk about even another personality, which is like Piers Morgan, a show that I've been on. He's platformed a lot of anti-Israel people. And now the British government is poised to recognize a Palestine on our land in the fog or in the smoke of the October 7th war. So help me understand British psychology these days. How bad is the Islamic jihadist infiltration into London? You know, how left and progressive are the folks out there? Is it overblown? Is it maybe overblown? Is it safe in England? Is it really like not true? Is it not so bad? Give me a sense of both British psychology and British reality.
Sure. Okay. There's a great deal to unpack there. I love that you started with 1917 and the British role in the Middle East, because you know what's amazing is that you see in the West, and you get it obviously in the UK as well, all this kind of self-flagellation about, you know, colonization and the British role in the past, and you get it in America with you know, with treatment of minorities, all of this kind of stuff, looking back at history and how terrible it was in the British Empire and so on. And you get people like Keir Starmer and the left that he represents and so on. Obviously, they hate British history, and you know, they look back at all these things with shame. And yet, what they've just done now, this recognition, this so-called recognition, and all of that, it is a neo-colonial initiative, right? It's basically Britain saying, "Oh, we're still an important power in the world, and we can still dictate to these lesser." You know, these lesser states, what their borders should be and shouldn't be. I use borders loosely because, of course, one of the whole issues with this are like, well, what are the borders of this fictitious state that you want to create? But leave that aside. It's this kind of, yeah, we drew up the borders of the Middle East before, we'll do it again. So isn't it amazing how, you know, we're all against colonialism, except when it comes to the Jews, when we can dictate the terms to them. But that's just by way of introduction. But let's unpack a bit about what you said. Indulge me for just a second. Let me tell you a bit about the political scene in the UK. Last year, there was a general election that brought Keir Starmer to power. The Conservatives' 14 years of government are kicked out by the electorate. They became very unpopular, whole bunch of reasons. But Keir Starmer comes in with this huge majority, but it's not because he's popular. His ratings are actually very low, and since then they've completely tanked. So how is it that they get this majority? What you really saw, in addition to the unpopularity of the Conservatives, was a fragmentation of British politics in a way that we've never seen before. Usually the UK politics is two main parties and one or two smaller parties, the Liberals and the Scots and so on. What we saw in this election was the rise of fringe parties on the right, like Nigel Farage's Reform Party got a bunch of seats. But on the far left, the Green Party, and also a bunch of Gaza independents. So Jeremy Corbyn was one of them. He'd been expelled from the Labour Party by Keir Starmer, you know, the former anti-Semitic leader of the Labour Party. He'd been expelled, but he ran as an independent and won, made a big thing about Gaza and a bunch of other things. But a whole bunch of other people appealed to this kind of growing sectarianism in the UK, and they became MPs, 4 of them plus Corbyn, and they made an informal alliance between them. So between the Green Party getting...
His voice is back? So Corbyn is back and his voice is back in British politics.
Oh yeah, but from the from the backbenchers, it's still fringe and so on. But it reflected a big shift. I mean, first past the post politics, like you have in the States with congressional districts. How many independent congressmen do you get in the States? Like zero. It's incredibly difficult to but it's not like Israel or Italy or whatever. You have proportional representation. Anyone and his dog can become a member of parliament. You just need 1-3% whatever of the vote. In the UK, you need to really engage with your community and so on. And it wasn't just these 5 Gaza independents that come in. In a whole bunch of other constituencies, they came really close. I mean, they knocked out some major Labour figures in some of those constituencies. They came really close to knocking out a bunch of others. This was a real wave. This is a real big, unheard of thing, this kind of sectarian politics in the UK. And it reflects demographic shifts. I just learned today, Yahya has become the 93rd most popular name in the UK. Can you believe that? The leader of Hamas, the assassinated leader of Hamas, his name has become the 93rd most popular name in the UK. Obviously, there are plenty of other names.
Yeah, 93rd is way down there. Did you say 93rd?
93rd, yeah. I mean, that's, it's, I mean, you got George and Max and Elliot and all these other names. And you've also got, to have the leader. I mean, it's like Osama, it's like Osama becoming like a hugely popular name, in the US, a few years, or in Europe a few years after like 9/11. I mean, that is serious stuff, right? Now Corbyn and some other this young figure, Zara Sultana, got a big following. Labour MP was sort of suspended, now quit the party, got a big following, fairly charismatic, but nothing really much to say for herself. They're going to form this new party on the far left of the Labour Party. They want to, to the left of Labour, they want to really galvanise the sectarian vote. So that's really important background because, at the end of the day, politics is local. Much as Starmer wants to be part of the France, Canada, love-in, let's all recognise Palestine, this is the real issue, right? This is what he's really looking over his shoulder about. He's got this far left threat and he needs to neutralise it, and he thinks this is the way.
So is the far left threat that you're talking about, is that British white people, or is that immigrants, Muslims, and that whole thing? Like,
yeah, it's a mix. It's got to be said. There are elements of the Muslim population, but there's also a lot of far left, white, 1,000 years British, whatever, are on the streets and all of that. They're all part of the same movement. I mean, Palestine Action, there was a group that was throwing red paint on everything, intimidating Jewish people, just, ruining businesses. They attacked an RAF base, Royal Air Force base recently. So they just got prescribed as a terrorist organization. There are a few kind of radical, Islamists involved in that, but it's mostly, young, white, middle-class people. So we've really got to contend with that. And even within the Muslim community, it's not just, migrants, people coming over the channel in dinghies, illegal immigrants or legal immigrant students and so on. That's part of that. But a lot of the radicalization is in second, third generation, British Muslims. So you had in the 60s, 70s, Muslims would come, immigrate to the UK, integrated, became doctors, became professionals, contributed to society. And it's a lot of their kids and grandkids that are starting to become radicalized. That is a much bigger problem than dealing with illegal immigrants, whom you can deport and so on. These people are British. They don't know any other country. They've not lived in other countries. So, how do you deal with that? That's a problem that Britain and a lot of Western countries, they have not come up with an answer for. And that's why a lot of the right-wing parties across the continent are surging, because it's a massive issue.
Is there right-wing parties that are strong in England today?
So Nigel Farage's Reform Party is really surging in the polls. It just smashed it in local municipality elections a few months ago. He is the favorite right now to become the next prime minister. Now, granted, that's 4 years away, but Nigel Farage is the favorite right now to become the prime minister, at least with being the largest party and possibly even being a majority. But it's 4 years away. It's really early days. But the very fact that this is even a trend shows you, the depth of feeling on immigration issues and these kind of extremism issues.
And he's what? He's anti-immigration into Europe, and he's pro-Israel, pro-strong Israel. Am I right?
He is broadly, I think, instinctively is pro-Israel. There's some other people in his party who are very pro-Israel. I think there's other people in his party who are kind of a bit more old school, anti-Semites. It's similar to kind of the MAGA movement in the States, Trump is, instinctively very on side, sometimes says some weird things, but, does a lot of great things. But, in his grassroots, it's very mixed. You get super pro-Israel people, and then you're getting some more and more lunatics, who are anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, and so on. So it's similar to that, but like everything in England, it's more subdued than in the US.
Is the British right wing also under attack from woke right, from Candace Owens type ideas? Like, is the British right getting infected with that stuff?
Fortunately, not for the time being. I don't want to say not yet. I'm hoping it's just a no. But that hasn't happened yet. The UK is still quite a few years behind the States in a lot of ways. I mean, there is a new channel called GB News that's kind of a sort of Fox News equivalent, and that's been enormously successful in the last few years. But it's very kind of mainstream right, pro-Israel, anti-extremism. So in that respect, the British right is in quite a positive place as far as I think the Jews and Israel are concerned. And by the way, the Conservative Party, which is still the main opposition party, their leader is very pro-Israel. There's some anti-Israel people on some of the backbenches, but their leader Kemi Badenoch, originally Nigerian, British, and very pro-Israel, really on side on all these issues.
You've given us a little bit of hope here about the UK. No, seriously, I'm serious. I'm glad we discussed it, because I thought it was like totally out of control. Let's watch a little bit of video, and I want to get your commentary on the video about what's going on in England. It's a Hebrew video with subtitles from Channel 11, but let's watch it and get some of your comments.
To see you all and welcome to Downing Street.
Yeah, it's lovely here.
אל תתרשמו משיחת החולין הזו של קיר סטארמר, ראש ממשלת בריטניה, עם קבוצת הלוויות אחרי ניצחונן במשחקי היורו לנשים. הדרמה העיקרית התרחשה כנראה במהלך האירוח של דונלד טראמפ מסקוטלנד, כשלפי כל הערכות טראמפ נתן לסטארמר אור ירוק להכרה במדינה פלסטינית בדומה למקרון, בין היתר כדי להפעיל לחץ על ישראל לסיים את המלחמה בעזה.
Okay, so you hear this? The Channel 11 is claiming, and I spoke today with my friend Eugene Kontorovich, who told me not to trust this report. They're claiming that Trump gave Starmer a green light to recognize Palestine to put pressure on Israel to stop the war. What do you make of that? I don't believe it. What do you make of it?
I don't know. I find it difficult to believe. Honestly, there's a lot of stuff that comes out of the Israeli media that I got to take with a pinch of salt. They there's a lot of characters there. They've got their own agendas. I was actually hoping that with Trump in the UK, he was in the UK this week. He was in Scotland, and Starmer didn't announce anything on Palestine recognition or anything, even as Macron was. And it seemed like Trump is in town. He's not going to do something like that, and maybe the whole thing will pass. And then as soon as Trump goes, he says it. I can't see that. And even the fact that Trump said to him in the meeting, you've got to get a control of immigration and all of that. It's difficult to say. Who knows with any of this stuff, but I can't see it. Why would the Americans be so supportive of Israel at this time and then do something like that?
Let's keep going.
That solution now under threat. This is the moment to act. So today, as part of this process towards peace, I can confirm the UK will recognise the state of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September.
ההחלטה הדרמטית נפלה בישיבה מיוחדת של ממשלת בריטניה היום, כשקיר סטארמר אמר לשריו שבריטניה תכיר במדינת פלסטין בספטמבר, בטרם כינוס העצרת הכללית של האו"ם, בדומה לצרפת, אלא אם ממשלת ישראל תנקוט בצעדים משמעותיים שיובילו לסיום המצב המטריד בעזה.
It's pretty rare to hold a cabinet meeting during Parliament's summer break.
סטארמר הוסיף שאין מקום להשוואה בין ישראל לחמאס, שדרישות בריטניה מחמאס נותרו בעינן, ושעד ספטמבר יבחן שנית את המצב בטרם תתקבל החלטה סופית.
Don't forget that we went into the last election with a manifesto commitment to delivering statehood for Palestine. Today we're going to be discussing, yes, the immediate crisis that sits before us, but also, of course, paying regard to those long-term issues as well.
I mean, you watch this stuff and you ask yourself, what do they care? Why are they in our business? What, don't they have their own problems? Don't they have European problems? Don't they have British problems? Like, why are they in our business? And not to mention, there's so many crises around the world, in Sudan, in Nigeria, in Yemen, in a million places. There's all kinds of horrible, real human crisis situations. Why are they in our business all the time? What's their deal?
It's absolutely a double standard, and it's sorry, but it comes down to anti-Semitism. But it's not that they are the it's that they are having to appeal to constituencies for whom this is the number one issue. As I said, the politics is local. They even mentioned in that footage that it's unusual in a parliamentary recess, the MPs on holiday and all of that, to call the cabinet back to have this discussion. It's all window dressing. It's all this kind of nonsense optics to try to tell this far left constituency that they're really taking action on this. And the fact that they are they put what was the statement? What were they actually saying? They said that they will recognize a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly in September unless Israel takes what they called substantive steps to end this so-called appalling situation in Gaza. And they're saying Israel has to agree to a ceasefire. It has to commit to long-term sustainable peace that that delivers a so-called two-state solution.
Right.
And
So
it's
either two-state or two-state, right? It's either
right.
Two-state, we'll recognize it later, or to give us two-state right now by stopping this war and letting Hamas continue to rule Gaza.
Exactly. And allowing the UN to restart the supply of aid, which, as you and I and your viewers will know, is basically just, UN aid fuels the Hamas war machine, because they seize that aid, they monopolize it, they sell it to the population, they distribute it in ways that aggrandize their power. So that's what, in effect, the UK is saying. But what's extraordinary is that there's all these conditions on Israel, right, to avoid this outcome. But what about Hamas? Not a word on Hamas, not a word on the hostages. And one of the cabinet members the business secretary came out today to kind of clarify what the prime minister was saying. And he said, yeah, we're not asking anything of Hamas. Why? Because Hamas is a terrorist organization, and the UK doesn't negotiate with terrorists, which of course is a total lie. But anyway, the UK supposedly doesn't negotiate with terrorists, so we're not going to give them we're not going to make any conditions on them. What kind of perverse moral logic is that you're going to go after the country that's trying to defend itself and give them an ultimatum, your supposed ally, and put conditions on them and nothing on Hamas? And it's not only morally warped, but it is politically imbecilic. What kind of incentive structure is this? You're saying to Hamas, you don't have to do anything. You're our enemy. We're not going to demand anything from you. But from our supposed friend, our ally Israel, we're going to put a bunch of conditions on them to try to weaken them in order for them to do what we want them to do, to appease some domestic constituency. It is absolutely insane. And I've got to say, these people generally aren't that stupid. This is not only morally crazy, but I think this is the biggest example of political morality, I got to say, that I've ever seen. And I don't usually criticize people I disagree with as being stupid, but this is monumentally stupid.
Well, it seems like Israel's not cool, and I argue that legitimacy actually comes from this thing that Israelis don't think enough about, which is cool. I even had Einat Wilf on the show, and I suggested to her, I'm like, we're not cool amongst young people and amongst constituencies. And then politicians translate that into illegitimacy when they speak of trying to limit our rights to fight this war. And we're also, the other flip coin, the other side of the coin of cool, is that we're not very clear. We're not being very clear about what our mission is. We're speaking from a lot of sides here. It's not clear what Israel's policy is, what it exactly aims to achieve vis-a-vis the conflict in Gaza. So we want to destroy Hamas. We don't want them to rule, but we want to make a deal with them. We want to feed them, and at the same time, we know there's a humanitarian situation, and we don't help them leave. So there's a lot of like these weird messages that Israel sends out, and one way or the other, the mechanisms of cool, those who create coolness, we're not on their side right now. And so politicians, detract from our legitimacy because we're not so very cool right now. And that's a tough place to be in. I definitely feel like, oh my gosh, my country is not seen as cool right now. That hurts. I think that hurts. You have to be strong. And as a Jew, you got to go through these kind of things. But it hurts. Does it bother you that the country that you're from is going that way?
It does. But as I said, there are political bright spots. Look, I don't like to see Israel and anti-Semitism become, what we call a wedge issue, an issue that divides parties, anti-Semitism and ideally support for Israel. Those should be things that unite everyone. It's sad and distressing to see that that's not the case. But at least it means that we still do have a lot of friends. I don't want to downplay the situation. The situation in the UK for ordinary Jewish people is it's bad. The situation is for the society.
Is it in the streets? Is it bad in the streets? Is it uncomfortable for Jewish people to live there? Is Aliyah being discussed more amongst the average British Jew?
I think it definitely is, and Aliyah figures have doubled. I mean, they're always quite small from the UK, but they have doubled in the past year. It's definitely being considered more. I think the situation in the UK in terms of anti-Semitism is both less bad and worse than people realize. It's less bad in the sense that people look at the UK, particularly a lot of people in Israel, they say, I don't want to travel there, or if I go there, I don't want to walk around with a kippah, with a skull cap, with a neck, Star of David necklace. I want to, hide my identity and so on. And, there are risks to showing your Jewish identity, but they're not enormous. It's not like you're guaranteed to be beaten up. There isn't huge amounts of violence. But you might get some looks, you might get a bit of abuse here and there, but that's not such a big deal. In that respect, it's not as bad as people think. What's worse is the pervasiveness of it. The fact you can't escape it. If you're living in the UK, you turn on the BBC, you read the newspapers, you're seeing this vilification, demonization of Israel, which is impacting you and your Jewish identity. When your kids go to school, if they go to a Jewish school, they got to cover their uniform, so it doesn't, they don't show that they're going to a Jewish school. If they go to a non-Jewish school, they're going to feel ostracized and alienated. We know the situation on campuses for students, but also in workplaces, in hospitals, in cultural institutions. There was a Verdi opera 2 weekends ago at the Royal Opera House in London, one of the premier opera houses in the world. And this was the last night of the show. And in the curtain call, one of the cast unfurled the flag of the Palestinian Authority. One of the backstage hands tried to wrest it from him and couldn't. So, it's just pervasive. You're seeing this kind of thing everywhere. And even the people that you're supposed to be able to turn to, where the police or university administrators, they're not really doing the regulators. They're not doing their jobs. They're not really helping people in the way that they should be. That's the issue. You feel alone. You feel there's no one to help you. But that doesn't mean, you going outside, you're gonna get injured or something. It's a different kind of threat, but it's insidious, it's pervasive, it's omnipresent, and that's very difficult for a Jewish person. And you Jewish people have got to make a choice. Am I going to stay a proud and strong Jew, or am I gonna kind of cower and submit and let this affect me? That's the question that Jews in Britain and in a lot of countries in the world need to ask themselves.
I guess that's what you asked yourself as well. And you've made your choice to come here to the land. And I hope that works out well for you. And I hope that British folks also feel that Israel is welcoming to them, and that the process is good, and that they feel that there's economic opportunities here. As I've been saying the last few days, I think that Israel's got two modalities. Maybe I said it on our tour as well, two different modalities. One modality is light unto the nations. Israel's a good country. Israel's got what to give and wants to give. It's got medicine, and it's got technology, and it's got spirituality. It's got a lot of things to give. But when the world hates the Jewish people, then thank God we have a Jewish state, and it turns its modality to something else, which is more akin to Noah's Ark. It's a place of defense. It's a refuge. And that's what Israel is right now. It's a refuge from the hate out there. Sadly, for those nations, anti-Semitism, it's not anti-Jewish, it's self-destructive. It necessarily shrinks those countries. It shrinks them. It weakens them. It turns them into something dark and bad inside. Anti-Semitism is a inner depression. It's an inner erosion, and it hurts those societies where that happens. The Jews, they suffer, but they survive. That's just the nature of the Jewish people. But those societies, they shrink. And look at England. Was not so long ago a giant empire. At its heyday, just not so long ago, when it was supporting the Jews, soon afterwards began to shrink and shrink and shrink, and it's what I call an annoying island full of jihadism today. Even though it's great traditions and great things that we can still recall, but overall, its impact is small, and it's not nearly what it used to be. Final comments from you, sir.
Oh, I mean, it is wonderful to be in Israel. It is, the way that the world sees Israel right now and what it's like to be in Israel are just two totally different things.
Right? Is that funny? Isn't that funny? Like, our reality inside is totally different than what people perceive it to be.
Exactly. And, day-to-day life in Israel, thank God, continues. Israel is thriving. The Tel Aviv stock market is doing better than ever. I don't know if that's just El Al's stock price, carrying everything else. I don't know, but things are good. There are hardships. Some families obviously being incredibly affected by the war. Can't downplay that at all. But this is a resilient country. It is a defiant country, and it is a united country, much more than it was before the war. It is a beautiful thing to be able to experience, and I encourage anyone watching us today to come and visit Israel the earliest opportunity that you have. We will be delighted to have you here, and you are always welcome.
Jonathan Neumann is a commentator on politics and religion and the best-selling author of To Heal the World, How the Jewish Left Corrupts Judaism and Endangers Israel. That book did well, did it?
It did. But still copies out there. Pick them up.
You need addendums, right? Do you write addendums to the book every few years? Is there a post-October 7th chapter yet?
In some ways, it's a depressing book, and in even sadder ways, it's aged very well. But it's still relevant.
Johnny Newman, thank you so much for being with us today, and I hope people really do check out your book, To Heal the World, ? How the Jewish Left Corrupts Judaism and Endangers Israel. In fact, my next segment today is about Peter Beinart on the Jon Stewart show. Did you see this yet?
I haven't.
Jon Stewart interviewed Peter Beinart, and they are just like, oh, everybody calls us bad Jews, but we're really moral authorities, and we really have a heart for the other side. We don't give a damn about our country, our Jewish country, but we'll be, as a Jews, we'll put it on top of we'll wear the yellow star proudly. We're Jewish, and we'll promote the other side and promote the jihad against Israel, and then we'll be morally superior. It's great stuff, and that's coming up on my show right now. I guess that's the stuff you wrote about.
It is always a pleasure, Yishai. Lovely to see you.
God bless you. Thank you so much for being with us, Jonathan Neumann. Check out his book. Okay, so as the title of the show promised, today we're going to review Peter Beinart and Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart, famous comedic host of a news program or news comedy. Peter Beinart, a kind of well-known in our circles, anti-Israel intellectual, progressive, who's a professor at a SUNY University, and also is one of the people out there pushing an anti-Israel agenda, but doing it as what Michael Rappaport calls as a Jew. And so we're going to review today. I want to tell you something. It's going to be a lot of fun. I did not watch the full thing yet. I watched parts of it, but I wanted to watch it with you for the first time and to get reactions. So are you guys excited? Should we get to Jon Stewart and Peter Beinart? Are you psyched about that? Come on, I want to hear a little bit of noise in the comment section. Come on. Before I go to that, I'm going to drink my tea. I want to hear a little bit of noise. I want to hear Yocheved, you could put on some of people's reactions about Peter Beinart and Jon Stewart before we get into it. L'chaim, everybody. Come on, L'chaim. We're on a live stream here. L'chaim, am I right? That is some good tea my wife made me. Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Malka. Yes, Yo says we are excited. And Sapphire says 2 Excedrin and a shot of Pepto-Bismol beforehand. Boy, that'll do a lot. And Mario is a little bit more circumspect, and he says, let's listen. That's right. And Daniel says, to life. Yes, L'chaim, Daniel. L'chaim, where are you from, Daniel? God bless you, and thank you so much. Badger Girl for God says, will it upset me? I think it's safe to say yes. Also, I want to say that my team and I have been discussing our broadcasting, and we are we'll get to this question in a second. Please leave it up. I just want to say we're going to be doing more lives, so look forward to that and connect with us during the lives. We're definitely going to do that. And first thing, I want to I'm going to read this super chat. And super chats is a great way to support the show and today's broadcast, and also a great way to honor somebody you love. If you have somebody that you want to honor and remember, you want me to read that out loud, a great way to do it is through a super chat. So Happy Guy 2355 says, money from Qatar and Muslim voters. These are the two main issues in the West. I didn't understand. I thought the $49 that Happy Guy sent as a super chat was money from Qatar and Muslim voters for me. I was excited about that. I was like, yes, finally, money from Qatar and Muslim voters that are, I guess, pro-Israel, unless they want to change my opinion. But now I understand that no, Happy Guy was saying, I support you, Yishai, and watch out for that money from Qatar and Muslim voters out there. Those are the two main issues in the West. I think that is very true. Thank you very much for your support. And I want to make a little, okay, well, go ahead, put it up. Jeff Pesos says, what the heaven is a self-hating Jew? Can somebody please explain? Does a Jew have to be a Zionist according to Yishai to be accepted, or what? Good one, Jeff. Good question. Jeff, the Jewish people are a peoplehood. And yes, we have a very diverse set of ideas and values, and we argue. But you know what Judaism is, and you know what Israel is. And that's our team. Supporting those things is supporting our team. Trying to destroy Israel or undermine Judaism is not our team. So if you're a Jew who hates Israel and wants to shrink it, then you're not on the team and you're not a good Jew. I just don't think it's really that complex. I think a good Jew is one who does a great job pushing Judaism forward. Ike Monk says, John Stewart has to be getting money under the table. I know he's smarter than this. What's in the video? All right, let's get to it. Wait. There's too many things going on at the same time. I want to say that today's show, from my end, I'm giving myself a super chat, and that super chat is to remember the memory of Leah Goldman, who was my high school classmate, a good friend of mine, married a good friend of mine, Shmuel Goldman, and they together were a power couple, and she passed away from cancer. Now, I guess it's now, I know exactly. I guess it must have been, it's either 13 or 14 years. No, I guess it's 13 years ago, or I guess maybe it's 13 or 12 years ago. In any case, she passed away. She was living a strong life in the Golan Heights and helped Jews move to the Golan Heights and help develop the Golan Heights. And she contracted or became sick with cancer. And the Lord took her back to him. She was a tzadikah. She was a very righteous person, a very good person, a great mom, a great wife, a great friend. She was a friend of Malka's and myself, and we miss her very much. Her day of passing is the day before the Yortzeit, the day of memorial for the Arizal, the famous mystic who lived in Sfat in the 1500s. And it happens to also be my mom's birthday. So happy birthday to my mom. God bless you, Mama. You're the best. May Hashem help us connect to the memory of the Arizal and his path. And also, please let's remember together Leah Goldman, a great soul who passed away. Ike Monk also supporting today's show with a super chat, writes, any possibility of getting you on Jon Stewart? Also, count how many times he mentions the hostages. Okay, we're going to watch Jon Stewart together. And this also might, we hope that it doesn't get this video banned or stopped from showing, because sometimes when you try to show Jon Stewart stuff, they kind of block it. So we'll see what happens. But in any case, it's important. If you want to get me on Jon Stewart, if you want to email them, go ahead. If you want to email Joe Rogan, then go ahead. But we gotta get messages, the kind that I'm putting out and other people's, but not enough are getting out. All right, here we go. You ready? I'm ready to watch a little Peter Beinart, I took my Pepto and I'm ready for Peter Beinart on Jon Stewart. Let's get to it. And I'd like to hear your comments. Please monitor if there's good comments that we can talk about with regarding to the show that the video that we're going to watch right now. Here we go. Wait a minute. Hold on. See, we got to remove this guy. No problem. See, I knew there would be something. Okay, here is the discussion on Jon Stewart's show. Jon Stewart hosts Peter Beinart, two Jews that don't live in Israel, discussing the homeland of the Jewish people and the reborn state of the Jewish people, the state of Israel, with a lot of pathos. Let's watch them together.
You are Jewish. I am Jewish. People yell at me about what I say sometimes about Palestine and what's going on in Israel, and they call me a bad Jew. Apparently, you can lose points.
Oh my God, that was the funniest line ever. Apparently, you can lose points. Yeah, you can lose points for being a jerk and selling out your people. Yeah. What's so funny about that? I don't even understand what the audience is laughing at. Yeah, you can lose points. Yeah, you could be a jerk to your people and you are not that funny. And there's nothing funny about that. You lost points. Yeah, like people call you a bad Jew. That's, I don't want to say, but maybe, if people in the streets are calling you a bad Jew and then you're going to get on your own show and be like, I'm a Jew and people call me a bad Jew, apparently you could lose points. Maybe you should listen. Maybe you should listen a little bit to when people in the streets tell you these kind of things. Maybe they're trying to send you some kind of message.
What are you experiencing as someone who is writing very clearly about your upset at what is occurring in Gaza?
Well, I have lost, some pretty close friends over this. But
lost pretty close friends.
But I also don't worry about having to feed my kids. They're not starving.
Right.
They're not being killed. I have freedom. I really have an incredibly fortunate and blessed life. And even though, it's hard sometimes to have other Jews really not like me because Judaism is everything to me. It's at the center of my life. I've also met so many other people from so many different walks of life who care about the same things that I do.
What did he mean by the fact that his kids aren't starving or their life isn't under threat? You know what I heard? I don't live in Israel. I'm not saying people starve here, but we're under threat. But his life is not under threat. He writes all day long about Israel and Palestine, all kinds of stuff like that, but he doesn't have skin in the game. He meant it to say that his kids don't have the challenges that Gazan kids have. And I'm going to read it a little different. Your kids don't have the challenges that Israeli kids have. Do you know that every time I put my kids on the bus, I'm a little bit nervous? Every single day, because there's terrorists all around us. Do you know what that's like, Peter Beinart, to live with a society who is condoning terrorism? I am not saying that every Arab is a terrorist, and they're not. But there's a bunch. There's a bunch of jihadism around here. And if you watch their TV or read their literature or go to their mosques or their social media, they're teaching jihad every single day. Do you know what that's like, Peter Beinart? Or do you just want to snipe from the Upper West Side of Manhattan and tell us what to do, but you have no skin in the game?
I believe that all human beings are created in the image of God. And I know a lot of people caricature a lot of these people who care about Palestinian rights and freedom as like being anti-Semitic. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, the vast, vast majority of people I meet, they strike me as like the kind of people who would have stuck up for us when we were in trouble.
Well, we are in trouble. Why aren't you sticking up for us? The whole world hates us today. We're at a war called the October 7th War. We almost got nuked by Iran. Why aren't you sticking for us? Why aren't you sticking up for us now? It's like they would have stuck up for us when we were in trouble because the last time I remember trouble was the Holocaust. Because all I think about is the Holocaust. What about right now, bro? What about right now? We're sticking up for Israel right now. You are on the side of Qatar and Hamas, etc. You're not sticking up for us now. And by the way, notice they're just a few minutes into the show. They both identified as Jews, and they never seem to talk about Israel, this Jewish state, this most exciting thing that the Jewish people have going in the last 2,000 years, this big issue that's not on their minds, right? They're not talking about creating a Jewish state. They're not talking about Zionism. They're like, I'm a Jew. I'm a Jew also. Let's talk Palestine. Where's your homeland? Where's your peoplehood? Not on the agenda.
Kind of people who are willing to risk something because when they see people suffering and being abused, they act. And those are the people who I want to be around.
You know, you bring up such an interesting point because it does cut to the idea of who qualifies as a good Jew and a bad Jew. And
oh my God, how much pathos do you have, John Stewart? Yeah, Allah. How much pathos do you have? Who's a good Jew? Am I a good Jew? I don't want to be called the lesser Jew because I'm a Jew, even though clearly Judaism is not a big thing for me, as he'll admit later, or Zionism is not big. And these are the main pillars of Judaism. But I'm going to talk about who's a good Jew on my Jewish show. It's like the most Jewy, Woody Allen-y, pathos-filled discussion I ever had in my life. I want to. Is it fair for them to call me a bad Jew? Because that really hurts my feelings. As though Judaism is something that permeates your life in the first place.
And admittedly, I don't know all the different things in the nuance of the history here or what happened.
I don't know the nuance of the history. Let me help you understand what he just said. I don't know the history. I don't know the nuance, admittedly. I just don't know the history. I'm not good with history, nor am I that good with Judaism either.
Happened in '93 at the agreement that might have turned, but I know what I'm seeing. And I have a moral clarity about what I'm seeing. And what I'm seeing, I think, as someone who was raised in Judaism, that's what taught me that this is wrong. What I'm seeing happening in Gaza is wrong. You know, we learn in Judaism, it's funny. You know, you learn that you're the underdog. That's kind of the history.
Right.
You know, I always looked at the chosen people as kind of a wry. You know, when you read the history of the Jews, you're like, you're the chosen people. And you want to say to God, like, if you could choose someone else. That would be nice. But what happens when David becomes Goliath? And
this is so 1990s talk. Israel is Goliath. You know why Israel is Goliath? 1 second, let me fix this. Do you know why Israel is Goliath for these people? Do you know why Israel is Goliath for these people? The reason that Israel's Goliath is because these people have no sense of Jewish sovereignty and Jewish power. They're not comfortable with Jewish power. John Stewart, say it. I'm not comfortable with Jewish power. Therefore, the only way I know, this is what he's really saying. The only way I know to understand how to exist in terms of a governing modality is to be the underdog, to be the Jew in the foreign court, to be Joseph in Egypt. That's what I understand. But I don't understand how to be a power. I don't understand how to be a sovereign. And that's exactly why I'm so uncomfortable. And the only way that I can understand it is that Israel's the Goliath. And I'm going to line up with the minorities and the other people because I don't know how to be a sovereign. I need to take that down because I don't recognize that form of Judaism. I only recognize the Woody Allen New York form of Judaism. I don't recognize Jewish power. I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to swallow it. I don't know how to think about it. I don't know. I've never made the transition to being a country or a power or a sovereign or a governor. I'm not that. I am a minority. I'm a comedian in New York. And I have no idea about how to be a Jewish power.
Responsibility there. Is that what troubles you?
Yeah, I mean, our responsibility is to remember what was done to us, to remember.
Our responsibility is to govern our peoplehood in safety and to help create the Jewish state, which is the most exciting project of the Jewish people in 2,000 years, okay? This whole thing that they're trying to say now is like, we're really bad. That is their internal pathos. Instead of saying us as, because they can't recognize Jewish power. They can't see that we're actually killing bad guys. They can't see that we're doing a war of survival. They can't swallow that kind of consciousness.
What we would have wanted people around the world, I'm not saying that what's happening in Gaza is the equivalent of the Holocaust or anything like that, but what's happening in Gaza is bad enough.
It may be a slow-mo. You know, I saw an article in the Times, Brett Stevens, I think, and his argument was this can't be a genocide because Israel's so strong they could kill them much quicker.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's the most cynical description of.
It's not a genocide. It's not a 1 second. It's not. Can you hear me, guys? It's not a genocide because it's just not a genocide. It's not a genocide because it's just not a genocide. It's just not. It's a war. It's a war with bad guys. The people are not being genocided. You could see that. A lot of people have died because it's a war. It's a war. Is every war now going to be called a genocide? Is that what we're doing? And there's no substantiation. Here's these two Jews on this big famous show being like, well, Israel could genocide. That's a stupid argument, and that's cynical because there is a genocide. Like, there's no just forget that word. That's just that's just Hamas's script that they've written out for you, and you are just reading it out loud, verbatim. Genocide. What is this word even? What are you talking about? What are we even talking about? There are what? 5-6 million Arabs that call themselves Palestinians, 2 in Judea and Samaria, 2 in Israel that are Israeli Arabs, and 2 in Gaza. Let's say, maybe I'm exaggerating. Let's say 40, 50,000 people have been killed in this conflict. Is that a genocide? Is that a genocide? Let's say it's 60,000 people. And by the way, every lost life is meaningful, and it should not be reduced to a number. But like, genocide means the effort to try to destroy a whole peoplehood. That is not what's happening. The peoplehood of Gaza is not being destroyed. So snap out of it, boys.
A military siege and a purposeful starvation that I've ever seen in my life.
Did he say purposeful starvation? Did he just, blood libel alert, blood libel alert, blood libel alert, purposeful starvation? John Stewart, come on. Where is your, and my producer, Yo, reminded me, it's like Jon Stewart used to rip these kind of lies apart. Now he's just selling it that there's a purposeful starvation. Did you just issue a blood libel against the Jewish people on national television, maybe international television? Is that what just happened, Jon Stewart? And then you're like, I don't know why they call me a bad Jew. I guess you can lose points. Yeah, man, you lose points when you tell the world that your peoplehood and this great country called Israel is purposefully starving another people instead of fighting a war to defend itself.
Right. I mean, even Israel's leading human rights organization, B'Tselem, has just come.
Leading human rights organization. It's a far left Euro-sponsored garbage organization, B'Tselem. You and your friends, they are your friends. But look at his face. He's like, hey, I'll make you think this. Even this far left Euro-sponsored progressive organization that marks itself as a human rights organization, even they and Haaretz and then the BBC and CNN claim that.
Out with a report saying they believe this is genocide. So it seems to me.
Yeah, they believe it's genocide. They really do. They really do. Or maybe they just want to say that because they like hate the Jewish people and want to call us bad names and besmirch our moniker out there. And you're doing the same thing. And I don't know why anybody calls me a bad Jew. Just because I'm reading Der Stürmer and kind of reading it out loud to everybody and agreeing with everything Der Stürmer says. I don't know why anybody would say I'm losing points as a Jew.
If we want to remember our history, if we want to honor those in our own families and of our people who were slaughtered and who were genocided, who were starved to death,
then we would, if we want to honor the memory of those people, finish the sentence, everybody. Finish the sentence. If we want to honor the memory of those people that fell in the Holocaust, that were genocided, then fill in the sentence. The sentence should complete. We will stop anybody else who wants to do that again. Then we will never again allow that to happen. That's the completion of that sentence, right? We are not going to succumb to the to the Nazis of today, the jihadists, right? That's the answer that should be.
While nobody in the world cared, our obligation is to care. Our obligation is to risk something.
Woo! We got to clap for the jihadis. Israel's got to support the jihadis. Remember the Holocaust. Don't Holocaust the jihadis. That is the stupidest argument. The simple logical phrase is, remember what happened in the Holocaust. Don't let it happen again. Right? Oh, Peter Beinart.
Listen, man.
Look at their faces. Look at Jon Stewart's face. He's like an old rabbi right now. He's like a wizened old rabbi without any actual content of a rabbi or knowledge of history but look at that face. Oh, I'm filled with pathos. We're hurting the Palestinians. We got to stop it because that's the morality. Instead of being like, yeah, we got to destroy the jihad. We got to, ensure that decent people are safe by finding them a way out or a way to be fed. But certainly we have to keep fighting this war to destroy those who would destroy us. That rabbinic dictum that you have to get up earlier is missing.
This has rocked I feel like a crazy person.
His neshama is breaking. His neshama is rent apart, right? But was his neshama, was his soul broken on the 7th of October? Was his soul broken that Hamas built terror tunnels to destroy Israel? Was he upset that Iran was building a nuclear bomb to nuke his people? It's like he's like his whole thing is this like Woody Allen. He's the Woody Allen of Rebbe. You know what I mean? He's like all about like this Woody Allen intensity inside of feeling guilty about being a Jew with power.
I feel like I'm watching something that is so self-evidently inhumane and horrific, and to be told,
bro, you have a responsibility as a Jew. Why don't you come here and see it for yourself? Or why don't you just shut up? Right? But the pathos conversation, that's what you got to have out here. You don't even know the facts. You're just and I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings. You're an American Jew. You've never been a soldier. You don't really know what's going on. You don't understand Arabs. You don't understand the Middle East. You certainly don't understand Judaism. You don't understand our fight for survival.
That I have to shut up because I risk the Jewish state by speaking out. I would say the opposite. I think not. I think they're putting the likelihood of a surviving Jewish state much more at risk with this type of action. I think.
With what kind of action? With fighting bad guys? And also, what do you care about the survival of the Jewish state? I haven't seen you care about the survival of the Jewish state. I've seen you knock the Jewish state throughout your whole career. You haven't wanted to see the survival of the Jewish state. You have wanted to see it shrink. You have wanted to shrink its power. You're not. What are you playing? What are you now selling us that you're concerned with the survival of the? I'm concerned with the survival of the Jewish state. Since when? Even this very show, you're weakening our defenses.
I think they're the ones that are being anti. If you want to define Netanyahu, but the definition of anti-Semitism would probably have to bomb himself.
What?
I mean,
yeah.
Martin Luther King said that white and black Americans were bound up in a single garment of destiny, right? Palestinians and Israeli Jews, and in some ways Jews around the world, we're bound up in a single garment of destiny. If we want Israeli Jews to be safe, and I care passionately about the safety of Israeli Jews.
This guy has a career of maligning Israel, lauding jihadist elements, and yet at the same time he dares proclaim here on television that he is profoundly concerned with the safety of Israeli Jews when he himself has been the ammunition of anti-Semitism throughout the world. Even Peter Beinart, the Jew, says, etc. Okay, so please, you are really a wolf in sheep's clothing. You play this look at me. I just care so much about Judaism in Israel, and at the same time, you are the spokesman for jihadism. That's the bottom line.
In the long term, Israeli Jews are only going to be safe if Palestinians are going to be safe. And Palestinians can't be safe unless they're free. If they're under oppression, if they live under...
Did you follow that logic? Israel can't be safe if the Palestinians aren't safe, and the only way to be safe is free. How about this? How about we fight jihadism, and then Arabs that want to live in the most normal state in the region will be proud residents, loyal part of the Jewish state, and then they'll have the most incredible freedom and opportunity, right? But these guys will never, notice this, never will they talk about October 7th, or at least they'll do it in passing just to kind of lip service. They won't talk about October 7th. They won't talk about jihadism, and they won't talk about the hostages either, right? And they're supposed to be from the liberal left, right? They don't care about these things. To them, Israel is evil and its fight is evil, because the deep truth is they cannot stomach Jewish power. That's their real problem. They cannot. And in their whole instinct is to shrink Israel away from power so that they can return to a Judaism that they recognize, which is ghetto Judaism or diaspora Judaism, that they understand how to wield power in that. You can become a professor or a great comedian. I understand how to wield power in that, but I don't understand Jewish power in a Jewish state. They don't understand how to stomach that.
Under conditions that even Israel's own human rights organizations called apartheid, they are suffering radical amounts of violence all the time, even before October 7th. Do we think, when we think about all these kids...
So Arabs suffer violence, according to Peter Beinart, right? Jews, this tiny minority that has been victim of so many wars, that's not interesting to him. And then later he's going to tell us that he cares about Judaism and the Jewish people.
In Gaza, who are watching their parents starving to death, who are watching dozens of their family members being...
Who is starving to death? Have you seen these parents? These parents are chubby with cheeks. I'm going to call them chubby cheek Palestinians, for God's sakes. We've seen all the videos. That's all been debunked. It's been debunked. We know that. We know there's food in Gaza, and we know that Israel sends in millions of tons already of food into Gaza, and Hamas takes it, makes them pay $100. We know about it. It's all been debunked. All these pictures are Pallywood of these starving children who got treated for genetic diseases in Israel. We know it's a lie, for God's sakes. Why are you the mouthpiece of lies, Peter Beinart?
Killed. Is that good for Israel? Is that good for Israeli Jews in the long term? How you treat people has an impact on how they treat you, right? And if you want Israeli Jews to be safe, Palestinians also have to be safe.
How does and look, listen, this is
New York City platitudes. That was like a deli sandwich of catchwords in meaningless phrases.
this is a tough conversation because we are two people that I think see this situation very similarly.
Right.
I obviously see it from a more secular perspective because I am, even before Gaza, a bad Jew.
Once again, like this guy, do you see the pathos that this guy carries around inside of himself? He's like one of these old people who's like, why does he think he's a better Jew than I am? I'm a bad Jew. What is this whole like? Why do you carry around the badge of being Jewish if you're already carrying around the guilt of being a bad Jew and you're not even so into Judaism and you're into, you call yourself a secularist. You're clearly not so much. You're not a Zionist. So why do you even carry around this whole thing of Jewish? It's like, I carry the guilt of being a bad Jew. He's like a serious. He's got a serious Holocaust. What's it called? Trauma that he's carrying around. Again, because he doesn't understand what it is to be a powerful Jew in a reborn Jewish state.
First night of Passover for me was like meatball Parmesan hero. Like I was not good. I was not good. But you see.
Why don't you talk about some of the other sins as well? So funny. Oh my God, look, I can't even keep the most basic thing about the Jewish people is that we remember our exodus from Egypt by not eating bread on Passover. Oh my God, so I made meatball Parmesan sandwich, bread and non-kosher meat and cheese and meat. I did it all. And then why am I considered a bad Jew? Why do I lose points? Yeah, because you couldn't take something in your life to give up a little bit for history and for the people that lived before you and for heritage and for God and for your peoplehood. You couldn't give up that Parmesan sandwich. And then you tell the world that that's how you behave on your Passover. Do you think that the Arabs respect you when you tell them that? Do you think the world respects you when you give up on your people's heritage? They don't.
All of our holidays, the whole entire ethos for me of being Jewish, and I don't doubt that there are people that have a radically different interpretation than I do, but it's all about we were about to be wiped out. We were in a cave. We had 3 days of oil, and then suddenly the Maccabees overcame it all, or Purim,
Did he just jump from Egypt to the Maccabees, or did I got confused there? But okay, he's lining up all the things that Jewish people were almost annihilated, and we fought back. That's right, we fought back and won. Baruch Hashem, thank God.
Esther, she was almost destroyed by Haman, and the Jewish people were, but she went to Mordecai, and now we wear costumes and do like it was.
You know what? That was this moment is when I like Jon Stewart the best. At least he's quoting a little bit of the Bible and Jewish history. At least he's got inside of him a little bit. You know, you could see that he's still, you know, like this as a Jew, you know, who's proud of his Parmesan sandwich on Passover. Like you could see that there is a Jew. There is what we call in Judaism a Pintele Yid. He's still Jewish inside. And this is maybe, if I could just cut out this moment and just leave, this will be my happy memory of Jon Stewart. But I'm guessing it's not going to go in the right direction.
Always like, oh, they almost got us, but wait.
Right.
That's right. They almost got us, but wait. Hashem saved us. That's right, John. You're doing good so far.
It's more complicated than that, isn't it?
It's true, because if you read the Hebrew Bible, if you read the Talmud, what you see is that our religious texts describe us in the full range of humanity. We're human beings. Nothing human is alien to us. We can be horribly victimized, and our texts talk about that. But the end of the book of Esther, from which the Purim story comes, also ends with a massacre by Jews of the Jews' enemies. The story of Hanukkah.
Wait. Hold on. We massacred the enemies? Bro, that's called war. We fought the enemies. They came to kill us. We killed them. Those that wanted to kill us. That's not a massacre. It's victory. That's called war. That is such a, I can't even, like, what is this kind of effeminate, no sense of justice, this kind of like, what were we supposed to do? Leave the jihadists, the Nazis, the Amalekites, the Persian Amalekites be like, yeah, that's cool. You know, you came to kill us, but we're cool. Maybe that's the way. He'd be like, come on, let's make peace right now. Like, that's how he understands the book of Esther, is that at the end we massacred our enemies. It's called we fought with them. They came to massacre us. So we beat them. I mean, that phrase right there will tell you everything about Peter Beinart. That warped read of the text. And he's a text guy, right? And Judaism is about text, and he's a text guy. Like, that's how he reads it, that we massacred our enemies. What do you mean massacred? We beat them. We destroyed them. We fought them. They came to kill us. We pushed them back. Right. Daniel says not allowed to fight back because he's a ghetto Jew. He doesn't want to fight back. He just wants to survive in his little ghetto because he's a professor. Okay. He doesn't understand that sometimes they come to get you and you push them back, you destroy them. That one phrase is all of the philosophy of Peter Beinart. We massacred our enemies. We massacred them. That is like the lowest point, man. You did not understand because you didn't understand the text because you don't understand reality. All right, let's keep going.
And the story of the Chazmonaim, the Maccabees became in power, it moves from them liberating the Jewish people to them becoming oppressors themselves. So part of recognizing us as human, as Jews.
Basically, he's saying every time we have power, we become oppressors because he's one of these oppressors, binary. Maybe we call him Peter Binary Art. Okay, that's my new one. Peter Binary Art. He understands two things. It's like oppressors. You see, we got power. We became victimizers. We became the victimizers. That's how that's the only thing he understands. He can't deal with power. He can't deal with, like we have power. We have to make, tricky decisions to figure out who the bad guy is, deal with them. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's complex, but that's actually the better version when we're in power. The ghetto Jew version, which he prefers. He prefers the ghetto version who's the victim, as opposed to the sovereign Jew who's strong, in his mind, immediately the victimizer.
Is fully human, is recognizing that we are capable of being victims and being victimizers. And we have to recognize that in order to prevent us from falling into the trap of thinking that every single situation is the equivalent of what was happening in the Tsarist Russia or in Nazi Germany. Right. In some situations, the power dynamic is reversed. In Israel-Palestine, it's Jews who all enjoy legal supremacy and citizenship, and Palestinians who are denied basic.
Israel is a tiny little enclave, a little Indian reservation in this region, okay? We don't enjoy rights in this region. We've been victims of a whole huge area of this Arab Middle East and Turkish and Persian. We've been under the gun. We continuously are under the gun. But he doesn't understand that. He doesn't understand that my wife and children are in danger when they just go out the door because we have jihadism. He doesn't respect the need for Jewish power to stay away from the people who would do the same thing as Nazi Germany. Because as I said to you, in his mind, the power structure is one. Now that we're in power, we're the victimizers. That's the only thing he understands.
Right. And we have to recognize that that's possible, and we have to fight against it for our own sake and for the sake of our honor.
How do we get past?
Blah, 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 blah. For the sake of our honor, we destroy bad guys. For the sake of our honor, for the sake of the honor of our children, we destroy the bad guys so we can leave a safer and better world for them. There's nothing wrong with that. That's honor.
Those conversations with fellow Jewish people, like, I feel like it's been shut down, that they
shut down. It's been shut down. Look at these two famous guys on a massive show that is broadcast and massive numbers on YouTube. Now he's going to decry that we can't speak. We can't even, our voice isn't heard. Like, have you heard of the New York Times? It's also a bunch of Jews that call to weaken Israel incessantly. And now you're going to tell me that you don't have a voice, Jon Stewart? You don't have a voice? Is that what you're telling me?
They're horrified by things that I would say about the injustice of it all. And I feel like I don't know how to talk to even friends of mine that have gone there. And I imagine they feel the same way about me. But there's an urgency about it now because, like, right now in this situation, we can't be like, but Jews are not getting along with other Jews. Like, that's not the important thing right now.
Absolutely.
How is the world not stepping in and stopping this atrocity? I don't understand.
Jon Stewart, again, you used to be like a smart guy. You used to be a guy who uncovered falsities and called them out. Do you know how many atrocities there are in this world that the world doesn't stop? And you know that Israel is not committing an atrocity, but fighting a war. But seriously, like, can you just list the atrocities? Why don't you just go to AI and list the atrocities? Just do that. And let me hear you talk about other people. Because the only atrocity that you know is to blame your peoplehood with a blood libel. But to care about the millions of people that are being actually genocided right now, nobody cares. For example, let's talk about the Syrians. How many people became refugees in the Syrian civil war? 10 million. How many people were taken down to dungeons and tortured in the most heinous ways? Nobody cares. Nobody cares that the Iranian regime tortures protesters, takes them down to dungeons, takes out their eyes. Nobody cares. And now suddenly you care. Suddenly you want the world to stop the genocide because you're a Jew who cannot handle Jewish power and because the only thing you know is to self-flagellate. And that's why people call you a self-hating Jew, because you hate your peoplehood, you spread lies about your nation and your country. That's why you lose points, bro.
Understand this in any way, shape, or form. It's not boggling my mind.
It's worse than just not stepping in.
I want to show you, I just saw Christine makes a comment. She says, why are they so condescending and patronizing? Because their main weapon is haughtiness. Their main thing that they promote out there is that they're more feeling than the other Jews. They are more sensitive to the plight of others. They're morally superior. That is their posture. They are morally superior. They could see things that the other Jews who are so brainwashed can't see. They are so enlightened that they want the world to stop this thing that my country that I'm ashamed of is doing. They're the elite. They're better. They are moral superiority in human form. That's what they are. They embody moral superiority. You could see it on their faces. There's a smugness. There's a pain and a pathos over the plight of the Palestinians. Not once have they mentioned any challenges that the Jewish people face and the great mission of establishing in Israel. Not once.
Our weapons that are enforcing this siege, that is enforcing this mass starvation. In November of 2024, something like 8 months ago, the International Criminal Court issued a warrant for the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu for the war crime of starvation.
So you are now mouthing the blood libel of the International Criminal Court, which the president of the United States has basically criminalized those people who are calling to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu because he recognizes how evil they are. By the way, I just want to read this one comment. 100 Hawkeye says, Rabbi Yishai, it's the 9 days. Instead of spotlighting confused Jews who are Tinok Shenishbu, which is not true. He's calling them babies who were kind of taken and never learned. Invite them to a Tanya Shir so the Alter Rebbe can reintroduce them to their Nefesh Elokis. Invite them to a Torah class of Chassidut, and therefore they can come back. You know, Rabbi Hawkeye, I'll tell you what, I hear you, and it's a beautiful point. But when these two men go on huge television outlets and teach against the Jewish people, they are what the halacha calls a mesit u'mediach. They have become enemies of the Jewish people, and it's important to out them. It's important to out their arguments. I can't just invite them to learn Torah and to be sweet with them. They're doing tremendous damage to us, and they have to be outed. But at the same time, your comment touches me, and I wanted to read it. Let's keep going.
Right?
8 months ago.
8 months ago. And the United States responded by trashing the International Criminal Court.
That's right. That's right, bro.
Even under
because some people do have moral clarity.
Biden. And then under Trump imposing sanctions on the International
That's right.
Criminal Court. And so the message to Israel was very clear. You can get away with worse.
No, the message was the International Criminal Court are part of the jihadist machine, which you are as well, justifying the crimes of the jihad and trying to stop Israel from strongly beating its enemies and creating a new opportunity, a new life for Gaza. And you're part of that same problem.
And so then for almost 3 months early this year, Israel cut off all food, all medicine.
Liar, 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 liar. And we know you're lying. They're constantly, listen, to be honest with you, I wish we would not feed them so much because I think a lot of that stuff gets into the hands of Hamas. I don't believe in sending food into Gaza like this. I believe in creating safe zones that are Israel administered and refugeeism to Egypt, to Jordan, to Syria, to France, to Spain, etc. You know, and they're feeding them. But to deny and to claim that Israel is starving people, that is a blood libeler. That you're a blood libeler, and that is a blood libel. That is a lie and a blood lie. And that's what you are. You're a blood libeler. Seriously. Like, how can anybody respect you when you lie like this so overtly?
All water into the Gaza Strip.
It's a siege. It's a military siege.
Yes, that we are deeply
2 Jews spreading blood libels. Can you believe what we've gotten to?
complicit in. It could not happen without us.
Us? You are not us. You are not us. Sorry, bro. I know you like to go to shul and stuff. You are not us. You do not fight for this country. You're on the wrong side of the issues. You're not us. Don't call us. Call it them, because Israel is not you. You're not one of Israel. You are on the wrong side of the issue. You're on the other side. So just let's be honest about what you are. You play both sides like you care about Judaism, but you haven't cared one word so far about the Israeli people, about the hostages, about the war that we have to fight. Not one word. Notice, not one word about jihadism, not one word about the hostages, not one word about the 7th of October. Should we keep going? Should we keep going, guys? Tell me, do you want to keep going? We're about halfway through this video. I mean, I am curious to where they're going to take it. I want to hear responses from you guys. I want to see if you want to keep watching this video, or are we done? And I want to hear from my producer what she thinks. I can keep going. I'm happy to. What do you say, yo?
I think we have to finish the whole thing.
All right. Okay, you go. You're the boss, so fine, no problem. So let's put that back up there, and let's finish up this discussion, which we're just halfway through, critiquing these 2 Jews, two Jews with some bad news.
Then why can't we use our leverage? Surely the United States can't believe.
Oh, now there's a different we. Now we is America. Oh, now Jon Stewart's got power. Now it's we is America, right? Now, Jon Stewart wants to force the we of America to force Israel to stop. Of course, his candidate is not in power, right? It's Trump. Oh, but now it's we, the Jews of America, can force America to stop the other thing, that Israel, which we're so embarrassed of. Now he's got a new we.
That this is in the best interest of the region. And when Donald Trump says something like finish the job, what job is he talking about? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, the Trump plan made it pretty clear. The mass expulsion of all Palestinians from Gaza. And that is official Israeli
But do
government.
you believe in the people of Israel would second that? There must be a robust...
There are many Israelis who are appalled by this, absolutely. But the problem is, when a leader like Netanyahu can get away with this again and again and again, it actually makes him stronger. The way to weaken Netanyahu at home will be to show Israelis that when Netanyahu does these brutal things to the Palestinians, that there are consequences, not consequences in human.
Okay, so first thing, now he said at home, he means America, right? And he's now saying that he doesn't like the democratically elected leader of America, and he doesn't like the democratically elected leader of Israel, and he's working to undermine both of those. He doesn't, and you remember what democratically elected means. It means majorities voted for them. So the majorities are very much against the things that Peter Beinart is saying. And with regarding to Gaza being expelled totally, Trump never said that. What he said is, you got to clean it out from the jihadists and create refugees. The only way you're going to do that is the only way that you're going to fight this war normal is let refugees run away, fight the combatants, let the non-combatants leave, fight combatants, and then that area can be turned into something different. I'm sure that many Arabs from Gaza would be working in his casino. Personally, I want to see Israel in control of Gaza. It was in control of Gaza. It should be in control of Gaza. And many Arabs will benefit from decencies and opportunities and upward mobilities that Israel will provide. But we've got to first get rid of the jihadists. The word is never said. He just doesn't say that. And my colleague Moshe writes, rebuild Gush Katif, right? Rebuild the Jewish communities. The Jewish communities were destroyed in Gaza. Gaza used to be Jewish, had strong Jewish communities. They were destroyed in 2005. Rebuild them. But no, for him, it's just like, Maka Fleischer says, I'm enjoying it. You are great. If Maka Fleischer is happy, then I'm happy. God bless you, Maka Fleischer. Happy wife, happy life, okay? If she says I'm doing a good job, forget about it. My day is made. But at the same time, it is the 9 days, and I got to watch these two Jewish, I was going to call them Jewish jokers, these Jewish self-hating Jews, Pathos Jews, Beinart Jews, Jews who hate Jewish power. That's really what they are. They're Israel shrinkers and hate Jewish powers. Let's keep going.
Lives. I don't want an Israeli to die, but there have to be some consequences so Israelis see that this is not good for them.
But it feels like they are not capable of being the arbiters of this dispute. It feels like the occupying power is not allowed to dictate the terms of freedom for the people they occupy. That seems inherently illegal. Yes. I don't understand how the world doesn't step in and separate these two factions. It's not. I don't even want to call it a war. It's a guerrilla operation facing an actual army with planes and bombs.
Right. And
what? It's a guerrilla operation. Guerrilla operations historically have been very successful against militaries. They're very famous for that. So this is the first time that Jon Stewart has admitted that there's even a war against Israel. He doesn't want to call it a war. He says it's a guerrilla war. He wants to get back to David and Goliath. It's like little David Palestine against big Goliath Israel, right? Not for 1 second does he see Israeli victimization. That Israel is the victim. He does not see that. He does not see that. That's what it is. There's no heart for his people. He has no heart for his peoplehood. He feels no pain for his people. He feels no pain for the communities in the Gaza envelope. He doesn't feel the pain of 20 years of rocketing from Gaza against Israel. He doesn't feel the pain of the Jews that were evicted from Gaza. He just feels the pain of this Davidic Palestinian guerrilla army of liberation against the big, bad occupying Israel. This tiny little Israel he sees as the occupying power. He has no heart for the Jewish people. That's why you lose points, bro.
To be clear, I know you agree. What Hamas did on October 7th was despicable. These were war crimes. But the thing we have to ask ourselves...
Whoa. I love when they do this. What Hamas did is it was war crimes. It was despicable. But whatever. Let's go over to the next thing, because we all know that I only said that as lip service because I want to blame our people. So I'll quickly mention it so that nobody like Yishai could come back and watch the video and say, look, that you don't care a hoot about our peoplehood and about the attacks against them. So that was just lip service. That was just in order to say, I also talked about the pain that Israel suffered.
How does Israel react? How do America react when Palestinians fight for their freedom in an ethical way, in a way that respects the lives of Israelis? In 2018, there was a mass march, overwhelmingly nonviolent, in Gaza. Palestinians did exactly what we wanted them to do. They behaved like Gandhis. And did people applaud? No, Israel put sharpshooters with American weapons on the fence and shot thousands of people, so many people that the Gaza had to start an amputee soccer team after that. When they do nonviolent boycotts,
Blood libel. Israel certainly shot some protesters that came because we thought that they were going to do what they did a few years later, which is on October 7th. And in fact, because of that kind of march up to the fence, then Israel wasn't actually ready on October 7th because they were already used to this kind of march close and close. They did it again, and they paraded them all the way to the fence and back, so that they could launch that war. Don't you see that, Peter Beinart? Don't you see that? Don't you see that they used psychological tricks in order to make October 7th happen, including marching people up to the fence that you're defending today, that you're blood libeling against the sharpshooters who are defending from this kind of onslaught coming into Israel of jihadists?
Criminalize the boycotts. When they go to the International Criminal Court, we sanction the International Criminal Court.
Because people don't agree with you. People think that the International Criminal Court is part of the axis of terrorism against Israel, of anti-Semitism, of jihadism, of Qatarism.
Essentially send the message to Palestinians that nonviolent protest, that ethical protest, resistance doesn't work. And that makes it easier for Hamas to commit the crimes that they did on October 7th.
Apologists. Oh my God. Hamas has been in power since 2006, like 2000, approximately 2006, they took over. Says Ahmed, this is sad, Yishai. These guys need to be educated correctly, not ostracized. They're out there ostracizing our peoplehood. You think that they need to be? Do you think they need Yishai to love them and to be kind to them? Is that what you think? They need to be outed for what they're doing. They are weakening our people. They are emboldening the anti-Semites. They are in bed with the jihadists, consciously or unconsciously. They don't need to be coddled. They need to be educated. They need to be brought down. You got to push back against this kind of stuff. You think it's a joke? I'm telling you without a shadow of a doubt that they have blood on their hands because they justify the jihad against us. They justified the jihadist side and they undermined the Israeli side. And there are people watching this, and that leads to death of Jews, okay? Because it strengthens the anti-Semitic arguments. You think this is a joke? You think this is just about me lecturing them lecturing me? This is about strengthening our enemies strongly. And there will be people. You think those two, you think the guy that murdered the couple in DC wasn't watching the couple that worked for the Israeli embassy, the far left guy? You think that he wasn't watching this kind of stuff? Of course he was. And he's like, Israel is bad. They're killing innocent people in Gaza, and he did an act and he killed 2 people. You think the jihadi guy who firebombed in Colorado, you don't think that he was watching this kind of video? Of course he was. So don't think for a second this is just like about fun and games. This is serious business. People believe them.
You know, it's
you hear the clapping? People believe them. Somebody in that audience could go do a terror act against Jewish people.
Situation, and look, and I know what the pushback is like. Israel ceases to exist if this doesn't occur. But I remember, look, I was raised in the the story of Israel being necessary for the safety of Jews, which, by the way, if that's the case, we have a much bigger problem in this world than anything else. The idea that a people have to have an armed fortress of a homeland just to be safe living in this world is an absolute failure of humanity in the first place.
Have you ever heard of nation states, John Stewart? Have you ever heard of nation states? Have you ever heard of the northern Iraq area of Kurdistan? You know that the Kurds are hated by lots of people, by the Turks, by the Iranians, by the Syrians. And so now they have their independent place. Have you ever heard of Indian reservations? Did you ever hear of the white man coming to America and dealing harshly with the Indians? And then they had to kind of finally like make some kind of understanding and give them their own places. You never heard about that? You never heard that nations live on their own place and that they fend it? I mean, do you believe that we should have armies? Do you know that countries are under attack? Do you know that there's hate in this world? Do you know that Israel's been persecuted? It's a failure of humanity? Of course it is. Of course it is. But that's also reality. It's hard for you because you don't understand what it is to wield power. It's hard for you to understand that. But indeed, countries need defense. Even the Swiss are all like gunnied up because they want to stay neutral and they want to be defended. So listen, you have to you have to be real, bro. I know that you're a New York City comedian. I know that you've never seen personal anti-Semitism, but your fathers did, your grandfather did, your father did, and that's part of the reality of being a Jew in this world. We face anti-Semitism, and yes, Israel is our safety. Israel is our defense. Just look what happened now, John Stewart. Iran was about to nuke us. And Israel and then America was able to stop that. Yes, John Stewart, there are nations that want to destroy other nations. There was Egypt, there were the Jewish people in Egypt. There was the Babylonians and then the Greeks and the Persians and the Romans. Yeah, we dealt with all that stuff. We've dealt with sick anti-Semitism, and Israel defends us. And if you lived here, and if you served in the army, and if you owned a gun, you would know that we're proud to be part of Jewish defense. Proud of it. It's a gift to be like, I can push back on it. Says Rock the House, Yishai, when will Israel annex Gaza and assert sovereignty over Judea and Samaria? What are they waiting for? We're waiting to get rid of this kind of thinking from within our midst. We're waiting to get rid of ghettoism inside. And we have to pray to Hashem. Hashem, help us excise this ghettoism that's within.
But I remember Ariel Sharon withdrew from Gaza and Hamas took over. And I remember thinking like, oh. See, there are moments where like John Stewart is like still a smart guy where you get the, you're like, yeah, you still have you're not totally sold out. Beinart, he's a goner. But Stewart, like sometimes you see that he still has something that he remembers and understands that has a purpose. Oh, this is going to be, what an interesting moment of opportunity. You almost have an experiment set up. You have, here's what happens to the Palestinians if they choose a radical route, Hamas. But in the West Bank, here's what happens to you if you choose a more moderate.
Right.
And what happened in the West Bank then was not the flourishing of rights. It was the building of more settlements. It was the empowering of settler violence. It was the crushing of the Palestinians' authority to do anything. And I understand, it felt like that was the moment that hope was removed in any real way. For me, that's when I went, oh, I think I don't believe anymore.
I mean, the Palestinian politician.
It's important for me to talk about this because this is right in my backyard. Number one, Jewish people living in Judea and Samaria, it's our ancestral homeland. It's the dream. That's what Israel and Zionism is. It's in these places exactly. That's where Israel was born. That's what Israel will always be. And no Oslo Accords, no giving away of our ancestral homeland is going to ever work because it's just unnatural and it's against the rules of the Middle East. Giving away your land leads you to be disrespected and then fought, because if you're disrespected because you're giving away your the heartland of your ancestral homeland, then of course they're going to fight you for Tel Aviv. Oslo was never going to give us hope. But at the same time, I just want to say there's another side to what I just said, which is Arabs here live rather well. Hebron is one of the richest Arab cities in the whole world. Okay. My wife shops at a supermarket, which at the end of the day is coexistence. Nobody calls it that too much, but it is. It is. It's just coexistence. And as Yo correctly says, and we saw recently in the news, many Arabs do not want to live under the PA because it is corrupt and jihadist. So that's why you have the story in Hebron of these 5 sheikhs who are coming out and saying, we don't want the PA. We want to live under Israel. Israel will give us hope. Israel will give us opportunity. Israel will give us upward mobility. And we don't want the corruption, jihadism, and the failed promise of the PA. So it's sad that you've lost hope because there is hope. Let's read this. Another happy guy is happy today. And with another super chat says, the truth is that UN Watch, FDD, ILTV, JNS, Tausi TV, which I don't know, it's there if anybody cared about Jews or Gazans. I'm glad you say that, happy guy. Well, your point is well taken, which is that there are channels for truth, and these guys are not reading it. But for John Stewart, I think more than anything, we need him to come and have a visit here in the land, because he really will see a lot of things that will surprise him very much. He's obviously a slave to New York Times media. He's not reading a Roots Sheva Israel National News.
Who Israelis loved the most was a guy named Salam Fayyad. He was the most moderate Palestinian leader, the most opposed to any armed resistance at all. And when he left Palestinian politics in 2013, he did an interview and he basically said, Israel has defeated me. I did everything they wanted. I couldn't stop settlement growth for a single day. And he said, you know who's going to be empowered by this? Hamas, right? If you actually want to keep Israeli Jews safe, and you want to weaken Hamas, and you want to make sure that a terrible day like October 7th never happens again, you need to stop criminalizing and killing Palestinians who fight for their freedom in accordance with international law in an ethical way. But our government and the Israeli government do exactly the opposite.
I just want to say that I don't trust Peter Beinart to defend me and to defend our rights and to defend our history. I just don't trust him for 1 second. The things that just came out of his mouth, which were incorrect logically, what I'm challenging is, what does he really want? I don't think I cannot never trust him. I could never trust him to defend Israel and the Jewish people. I would never trust him. The man spews and mouths anti-Semitic tropes and lies and memes. He's on the wrong side of this thing. And when he says right now that, like, this is the way for Israel to be safe, I don't believe him. I think he does not want Israel to be safe. And I think that he has made a career of shrinking and weakening Israel. So I just don't believe even that intention, even though logically what he said is wrong. But I don't even believe the intent.
How, Peter, it's to me, like, if there are Jewish people who are conservative or thinking a different way out there, who are right now boiling with rage at us. And I truly do want to understand. Right. Like,
on the Yishai Fleischer show, we don't boil with rage. We laugh at you. We laugh at your weakness. Okay, we laugh at your pathos. Okay, we're not going to boil with rage because we're too busy building a Jewish state, believing in God, raising our children, defending ourselves, growing economically, giving opportunities to people of this region. We're not going to boil at rage at these two pathetic Jews. No, that's pathetic from the word pathos. Okay, no, John, I am disappointed. And I am making fun and critiquing, but I'm not going to boil with rage. We're too busy doing serious things. We're too busy building a Jewish state.
Is it that they think their existence and the existence of Israel is fragile to the point where that disagreement puts them at risk, or that we're not understanding just how hard they've bent over backwards to make this work? Because that's the part that I don't see, like, well, we gave the Palestinians every chance and they didn't take it, so now we get to do whatever we want.
Right. Like, I mean, what I would say to those people that are living in the United States is, like, what are we basing our safety on? The safety of our children. We're basing our safety on the idea of equality under the law, the idea of a government that treats people equally, irrespective of their religion or ethnicity or race. That's what most Americans believe keep us safe. So why would we not believe it was right for Jews in Israel as well? When you treat people equally under the law and you don't submit one group of people to brutal racism and oppression, everybody is safer because everyone can participate in government. And I don't understand why it is that.
I just want to say that I agree with parts of what Peter Beinart is saying here. I think that the principles of equality and the principles of liberalism true liberalism. They're beautiful principles. I don't for a second deny that. And that's why Israel is indeed the most liberal, from the word liberties and the word of concerns, for the freedom of expression, freedom to congregate, freedom of religion in this whole region, right? Like to make Israel into something that is not true. Israel is a country that wants to give people opportunities to speak and get equality under the law and equality of health, and like that's true. I want to say that is true, but he doesn't credit Israel of being the very best in this whole region, a representative, the very best representative of those values. So that's on the one hand, like I agree with you, but you don't give any credit to Israel for being that. So that's one. And on the other side, you also forget Israel's in the Middle East. This is not a place of all equalities. Jews don't have equalities in this region. Jews have been persecuted in this region for thousands of years. And so Israel is a protectorate. It's meant to protect its people. And you don't understand that it's not America. So on the one hand, I agree with you. And I say you're not giving enough credit for Israel as being really a liberal country. And on the other hand, you also don't understand this is not America. This is not Brooklyn. This is not the Upper West Side. This is a tough region. And you've got to defend yourself to survive, Peter Beinart.
That some American Jews.
This comment keeps popping up. As a Middle Eastern people only respect you if you show strength. If you're a strong people, we'll respect you. Israel's strong, then you need to live up to it and lead. Okay, that's absolutely right. That's how the region works. It's not a region of give equalities and everybody will respect you. Be strong, hold on to what's yours, and people will respect you. And then you can give a lot of liberties to people who understand not to mess with you.
Think that equality under the law is right for us, but wrong in Israel and Palestine.
They would say that they have it. They would say that they have it. I've heard them say it. They've said it to me. They've said to me, you don't understand Arab Israelis. They're doctors.
I know, right. But this is why we need to listen to Palestinians.
Right.
This is why it's such a problem that Palestinians are so rarely on the mainstream media.
What? The media is a big pro-Israel machine, you're telling me, and you don't hear Palestinian voices? Are we living in the same universe here? Am I some kind of like alternative universe where I'm seeing that the whole world mouths the PA Hamas Qatar propaganda and they're not hearing enough? I don't think they're hearing enough from settlers like me. Okay. I don't remember being invited. I don't remember ever seeing a settler on Joe Rogan or on Jon Stewart. I don't remember that. I remember this guy's face in a few different media outlets. For God's sakes, please. That's right. Says Sapphire, it was only recently that we were able to pray on the Temple Mount. You want to talk about equality? Come on, we don't have equality around here. We don't have equality in this whole region. And as much quality as we give, Peter Beinart wants to weaken us. His whole thing, I just want to explain to you in one phrase, he's always undermining Israel. He's always seeing the bad in Israel. He's always weakening it. He always wants to shrink it. He always wants to blood libel it. He always wants to see us as being the bad. How can I trust that guy with my security? I can't.
It's why it's a problem in our community that Palestinians are not invited to speak in synagogues. The kids aren't given books by Palestinians in Jewish schools and Jewish camps because...
Yeah, it's true. It's true. My parents did not let me read Mein Kampf. It wasn't part of my yeshiva day school education. What the heck? What the heck? You think why don't, you know what? You know what? You're right, Peter. You know what? You are right, Peter. Every Jewish kid should read the Hamas charter. You're right. You're right, Peter Beinart. Every Jewish kid should read the Hamas charter. I have read the Hamas charter. Have you ever read the Hamas charter? Read it. Why don't you read it out loud to us, Peter? Why don't you read to us Palestinian writings? Read to us the Hamas charter. That's the founding document of this organization that we're fighting. Read it. You're right. Every Jewish kid should read it.
When you listen to Palestinians, you stop just talking always about Palestinians and telling them, and listen to Palestinians talk about their own lives, you realize how brutal the experience has been, and you also begin to understand how dehumanizing the discourse of always talking about them without listening to them.
Have you ever been able to broach this with someone who believes as vehemently on the other side as Jewish? Have you ever found a way in that allowed you to to fully explain the passion that you feel for this and why you think it's so devastating? And have you had them hear you with, not necessarily changing of the mind, but with a grace that doesn't accuse you somehow of undercutting the entirety of our people?
Before he answers that, I just want to say, we've listened to him. I've listened to him. I've read his stuff. But you have to call a spade. Like, if you're undercutting your people, then somebody can claim, like me, that you're undercutting our people. You understand what I'm saying, John Stewart? Like, yes, we will try to listen to the other side. We try to be intellectually honest. And there are many things that I'm critical at Israel about, usually about being too weak. But when Peter Beinart says these things, and just listen to what he said in this whole conversation, there's one thing he never said: jihadism. He never said the Jews are under attack. He never talked about the thousands of years of persecution that we faced. He never talked about the stuff that it's written in the Quran about killing Jewish tribes. He didn't talk about that either. Okay. And now you want me to be like, when I listen to Peter Beinart, I got to listen with an open heart. I got to really feel what he's saying because he cares so much, so passionate about shrinking my people. Okay. I'm sorry if I didn't give it enough, love. But sometimes you just have to call a spade a spade.
I would say the thing that I've seen has the biggest impact on people is not anything that I say. It's actually going and seeing for themselves.
That is right, bro. One smart thing you said today. No, you said two smart things. One is read Palestinian so-called literature and go see it for yourself. I can concur with both of those.
And it's actually encountering what it's like to live for Palestinians their entire lives under the control of a state that has life and death power over them, but over which they have no influence because they can't be a citizen. They can't vote. They need military permission to travel around. They live under military law with a 99% prosecution rate. When you stop just talking about Palestinians and you go and see and you listen to them and you face their humanity. And
come see and listen, see their big cities here, see their big houses, see the jihadism that is being taught here, see the Arabs that don't want the PA, see that. Did you mention any Arabs? Did you talk? This show was recorded like a day ago. Did you mention the 5 Arab sheikhs who say we hate the PA and we want to be part of Israel? Have you said anything about that? No. It's one narrative for Peter Beinart. It's anti-Israelism. He doesn't want to talk about the Arabs who curse the PA every day. You know how many Arabs? Ask any Arab in the street. They'll be like, we hate the PA. It's jihadist. It's corrupt. It stinks. It's the worst. You'll never hear that from him. You only hear one narrative, anti-Israelism. That's why people will be like, you're a bad Jew. You've lost points. You're a Qatari agent or whatever it is, because he never even mouths the other Palestinian narrative, which wants to see a stronger Israel rule over them, govern over them so they can have a decent life.
you could imagine yourself being in their shoes and you see what Israel has done to them, that's what I find changes people.
Right. Well, Peter, I tell you, this it's a painful book, not going to lie. It is a painful book, but I think it's an important book, and I think people should read it. And look, make up your own minds. You're not going to, us two talking about it's not going to do that much. But Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza is available now. Peter Beinart, thank you for being here.
Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza. That's an interesting title. I like that title. You'll never hear from me here that Peter Beinart is dumb. You'll never hear that. These guys are not dumb. Peter Beinart is certainly not dumb. And that is I like that title. Being Jewish after, what was it called again? What was it? What was the name of the book again? Can you please pull it up for me? Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza. What is it? Being Jewish After October 7th. That's a big question. Did you wake up? Did you hear the call of your people? Daniel says, but they are idiots. I don't know if I agree with the word idiot. They are on the wrong side of history. They are maybe misled, maybe evil. Right? I wouldn't pardon them so quickly. I certainly wouldn't pardon Peter Beinart. Being Jewish After the Destruction of Gaza. That's the name of the book. Thank you. Good. Being Jewish After the Destruction of Jewish Gaza after 2005. The mistake that Israel made by giving away its land and allowing the jihad to take over, and then allowing the 7th of October to happen underneath our nose. Let's talk about that. Peter Beinart and John Stewart. It was a sad video to see on the 9 days. Self-destructive Jews, and certainly efforts to destroy and weaken Israel is what we saw. My heart tells me that John Stewart is just a little bit more lost and could use a little bit more. And it's sad because he's a smart guy. He could use a little bit more critical thinking. He could use to see it himself. And Beinart, on the other hand, a man who has really made a career at chiding Israel, weakening Israel, and striking against Israel. And now, in order to clean my palate, in order to fix the stuff that we just heard, I'm going to go to the internet for a second. I'm going to type in Chabad.org, and I'm going to ask for Parshat, the Torah portion of Devarim, which is the Torah portion that we're reading this week. And then you click through, and it says, let me show you this so you understand what I'm doing, because I want you to do it yourself. Hold on one second. Let me share this page. Let me share the screen. Here we go. Share. Good. Let's go back. I just want you to see what I did. I wrote into Google Chabad.org, Devarim. That's our Torah portion. But you can just go to Chabad.org. They'll show you this week's Torah portion. Okay. Then you go to weekly Torah portion. And then I want to go to the text-based learning right over here. Not right now. Okay. Let's go to this one over here, the Devarim Torah portion reading with Rashi. Okay, and we're not going to read. You could click here to get the Rashi famous commentary. We're not going to do that right now. This is the Torah portion of the beginning of the book of Deuteronomy, or Devarim. And the reason I want to read this to you is because, of course, we're going to learn some Torah together, and also because you can't have all that darkness without cleaning our palate and learning some of the Torah. And let's start here. See, says God to Moses, see, I've set the land before you. I've given the land before you. Bo, urshu et haaretz. Come and take up the land, take possession of the land. Asher nishba Adonai lavotechem, which Hashem God has sworn to your forefathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. LaAvraham, Litzchak, v'leYaakov. Latet lahem ulazar'am achrehem, to give it to them and their seed afterwards. I like how people say to me, a lot of times people say, what, is God a real estate agent? And the answer is, yep, he is. Don't tell God how to do his job. He decided to give the land of Israel to the forefathers and mothers and made a promise that their seed will inherit it, and that is what's happening today. Wait, I shouldn't have skipped that. I want to read a line here. This is the most beautiful Torah. We read this Saturday nights, every Saturday night. Here, verse 10. Adonai Elohechem hirbe etchem v'inechem hayom kekochavei hashamayim larov. Hashem God has made you great, many people, and he's made you like the stars in the sky to be plenty, is numerous. Adonai Elohei avotechem yosef alechem kachem elef pamim. Hashem, your God, the God of your forefathers, will add to you and make you 1,000 times greater. V'yivarech otchem kasher diber lachem. He will bless you as he promised you. Those are the promises. Today is Thursday night here in Israel, and it's almost Friday, TGIF. I want to recommend so much to you that you take time to read the Torah portion of Devarim, and hear about the message that God gave us to inherit our good land. I want to start sending you blessings from the land of blessings. We are not broken by those folks that are so weak and that want to shrink Israel, because we want Israel to be big, because we know that a big Israel means more rights and more freedoms for more people. We know that Israel is a light unto the nations. And in this dark time, Israel continues to shine its light. It's also a type of it's a type of refuge right now. It's a type of life raft. And so if you feel the pain of what's happening in the world and you're afraid, come to the land of Israel. Pamela writes, thank you for reading God's precious words. Yes, God's words are precious. And says, Gobadan, he writes, it's nice to hear in the original Hebrew. That's right. And Yitzi says, thank you, Yishai. And I say thank you right back. And says, Mike, Israel needs to grow, build a third temple, bring in the Druze, the Amalekites, and the Christians of Syria. We should be defending peoples all around us, and Israel. They should be confederated with Israel, I think. Not necessarily be part of Israel proper, but be confederated with Israel. Folks, I want to thank you so much for being with me, and I want to urge you to support our broadcasting, including buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. I want you to go there and support us, because when you do, you are unsupporting or dissupporting the bad guys who want to control the media. I want you to also do a little prayer for our algorithm. We need a little prayer from Hashem to continue to let the algorithm get our message, his message, out. So please go to buymeacoffee.com/Yishai and pray a little bit that our algorithm keeps sending our message, Hashem's message, out into the ecosphere of this world, so that it penetrates the feeds, gets into the minds of people like Jon Stewart and millions of others who are only getting the bad feed. We have to pray today. It's weird. We have to pray that the algorithm helps penetrate the feeds of so many people. I want to thanks everyone. Thanks, Yishai. Thank you very much, Michael. And I want to remind you also, check out fightforisrael.org, fightforisrael.org, where you can support our tractor project. We buy tractors for farmers, and we help beautify and renovate biblical sites, and we strengthen Israel's narrative. So check it out. Of course, we want you to like, subscribe, comment, become a member, and check out the store on our YouTube page at Yishai Fleischer TV. Makes a big difference. And with that, I want to wish you a blessing. Go big and go home. I want to ask Hashem to please protect you and get you ready for the rebuilding of the third temple, of which we're going to be celebrating a Saturday night, Sunday, when there's going to be a third temple in Jerusalem. We're going to be celebrating that third temple. But if not, we're going to be fasting because that temple is not here. That fast is called the 9th of Av. And people from the nations, like my friend Steve Werp and Blessed by Israel, are going to be fasting. And so many people, so many folks, non-Jewish folks, people who have not exactly my faith system, but love Israel, are going to be fasting together with us on the 9th of Av. I want to urge you that if there's no third temple celebration on Saturday night, Sunday, that you too fast, even for a little bit, about all of our roles, all our complicities in not bringing God's presence enough into this world. But I know that we're going to succeed, B'ezrat Hashem, and we're going to be Zionists. That's right, because we believe in Zion. We believe in Hashem's presence in Sion. Saspen says, excited for the third temple. You bet. It's going to be big, baby. Temple 3.0 coming soon. And that's it. I want to bless you guys wherever you are. I want to thank my team for being part of it. I want to thank Yo and Meira and Natanel and Malka, of course, and Ben and David and our big, beautiful, bold team that keeps producing great content. And Moshe. Oh, my gosh. Where would I be without Moshe? I need the Mo. I need the strong Moshe out there who's always keeping me in line and giving me a lot of strength. Thank you very much, Moshe. And I hope to see you soon in your beautiful state over there. I'm going to come and visit you soon. And that's it. All right, let's finish up to be strong. We're not going to be weakened by what we saw, but we're going to be strengthened. We're going to know the answers, and we're going to get the gift of the land of Israel, the gift of the land of Israel, and the gift of God's presence in the land of Israel. That's it, folks. Lots of love and lots of blessings. What time is it here? It's 12:30 tonight. Time to sleep so we can start the next day strong. And may Hashem give us good sleep and good strength and a good Shabbos and a good celebration on the 9th of Av and a good fast. If it's not, a good fast is also important. We have to cry. We have to mourn. And may Hashem help us cry and mourn and actually feel the pain of the loss of his mikdash, of his holy place. And that's also a blessing. When we know to share in God's pain, when we know that we lack his presence, that's also his presence. That's also a gift. To know that we don't have him enough is also a great gift. All right, folks, as we say, lots of love and lots of blessings from the land of blessings, and indeed embraces, hugs and kisses, and good energies from the land of Israel. And shalom.